Hey guys, RJ here. Westworld is officially gearing up to end the season. We are hitting the climax of the show, and the only thing left to do is strap yourself in and enjoy the ride. Episode 8 of Westworld is called Trace Decay, and this refers to the term that psychologists have used for a theory that the brain, when it conducts memories, it actually makes a physical or chemical change within the brain that then starts to decay over time, and that's how we lose or gain memories. We see a lot of this in the episode. You have Bernard, Dolores, the Man in Black, Maeve, and they're all on separate scales of how far their memory has come. Bernard's has kind of taken a step back now that Ford has wiped him again, though there's definitely some things about that I'd like to talk about. Maeve can remember almost everything now from some of her previous lives, including the attack with the Man in Black. Dolores is starting to remember the city that she used to be a part of, which is probably the beginnings of Westworld that she's trying to remember, is that beginning town. And I just find it very interesting that each of these characters kind of has different levels of the decay on what their memories are actually giving them. Since there were so many big moments this week and confirmations that we got on certain theories, I thought I'd expand my top 5 to the top 10, so let's go through it. So the timeline theory, which I haven't discussed a lot on the channel yet because I wasn't 100% positive, is pretty much all but confirmed at this point. If you don't know, there are spoilers. William is pretty much the Man in Black in the future. So whatever is happening in his storyline right now with Dolores, he eventually turns into the Man in Black. So obviously we know something went wrong in the Man in Black 30 years ago. I'm guessing that is the story of the events we are having with Dolores. And obviously this is pretty obvious for some of us, but other people might have not noticed that yet. And that's the timeline theory, that all of these things, while they're connected, it's not of where they're happening at, it's when. Number 2, Stubbs is clearly on to Bernard. They have that conversation about Teresa and her passing, and he's waiting for these emotional responses from Bernard, but he doesn't get them. Instead, Bernard kind of gives him these scripted responses of, oh, I didn't know her that well, she was just a colleague, and these are clearly exactly what Ford put in his mind so that Bernard could forget about Teresa, but Stubbs ends up finding this more weird than if Ford had left them there and let him be emotional about the situation. Number 3, Teddy officially remembers the Man in Black. When he was there at the beginning of the show, he killed Teddy, dragged Dolores into that barn, did God knows what to her, and now that Teddy remembers that, he's not willing to work with the Man in Black at all because he assumes that he still has Dolores, or perhaps he hid Dolores somewhere. Point is, Teddy's starting to remember things. He's an MVP caliber player in this show, so I'm kind of excited to see where he goes. Number 4, Maeve trying to break out of the park. Her plan has officially been set in motion. I really don't think at the end of this she ends up getting completely free. I think she gets really close and then ends up dying somehow. I just don't see her reaching that pinnacle. I think that ends up being Dolores someday. I think Maeve is kind of a bridge gap from the end of the season to the start of the second season. I just don't see her being able to get past all of these hosts, all of these people watching the park. And I know that she's kind of recruiting hosts at will now, and that is super powerful when you think about it in context of her getting to like one of those storage rooms and maybe turning a bunch of those on. But in general, I think Dr. Ford and all of these people watching her at every single turn, even if they are underestimating her, there's a lot of them. So she's going to have to go through a lot in order to get out of this park. Number 5, and I don't even really want to say this one out loud because I don't want to believe that it's true, but Elsie might actually be dead. We see in a small flashback that Bernard has when he's talking to Dr. Ford, he asked him, have you had me hurt anyone else, or is this the first time? And it's almost as if he's asking that knowing that it's not the first time that he's hurt someone else, and he has a little flashback. It looks like Elsie's face. Definitely nothing confirmed yet. I will not believe it until I see her dead body somewhere. But it did look like her, and it looked like he was gonna strangle her. Number 6, the fact that Hale and Lee thought it was a good idea to shove all of that proprietary data that Hale's still trying to get out of the park into Abernathy, the original robot that basically lost its freaking mind and ended up threatening Dr. Ford, which probably rightfully so, but basically was one of the worst off robots after the Reverie update, and now they're gonna shove him full of all the data that's in the park. So I could see this going wrong in so many different ways. I guess we'll just kind of have to see if Abernathy actually wakes up, or he does end up being, like a dumb mannequin that just kind of walks out of the park with all of the proprietary data that Hale's been looking for. But I hope to think that it ends up being something a lot more than that, where he has access to all that information now, and it should probably be feared. Number 7, when Maeve slits the throat of Sylvester for trying to double cross her behind her back and, have her get bricked and shut her down for good, she ends up cutting him, and even though I thought he was just going to die right there, she can't afford to kind of waste people at this point. She only has so many allies outside of Westworld, and so she ends up having Henry, laser his throat back shut, but clearly I don't think he's going to disobey her orders from this point out. Number 8, Wyatt must be one huge badass, because the Man in Black and Teddy walked right into his trap. That blonde girl ended up being part of Wyatt's crew, and she ends up killing Teddy, which, once again, we lose our MVP of the show, which is a little upsetting, because I thought maybe he was going to make it to the end episode, maybe, but of course he could start over and we could see him come back, but that was pretty upsetting to see him get cornered like that, and the Man in Black is obviously sitting there with, a half army at his face, so I don't know what's going to happen. Number 9, Ford keeps mentioning a process that he gets from an old friend, which, if you look on screen, it shows the memory wipe feature. And I'm guessing that he is referring to Arnold as the old friend, and if that's the case, I wouldn't trust that memory wipe as much as you are, Doctor. Number 10, Arnold is clearly calling to Dolores in this episode. He wants her to go into the maze. I think this eventually will unlock something within her brain because of the one shot where she's, putting the gun to her head and William ends up interrupting her. I just think that symbolizes that means something is blocking in her brain that she needs to unleash in order to become whatever Arnold wants her to be. There weren't really any overly funny moments in this episode, so instead of focusing on that like I normally do, I wanted to put forth how good of a job Jeffrey Wright did with that opening scene. He goes from crying to straight face to, his brow, just utter confusion, because if you think about what he's going through, he's realizing that he has no control over his life, that he just killed somebody that he loved, that all the people that he knew before that were fake, some construct that Ford created in his mind, and to go through all of those emotions in such a short amount of time, it's just amazing. I know this show has been talked about for its acting ability, and rightfully so, because once again, Jeffrey Wright, props to you. This was a great episode for you. So we have officially reached the climax of this season so far, and I think everything from here on out is just going to be totally insane. They're going to throw a lot of answers out there, and then I think they're going to throw a lot of questions at the end too to keep you intrigued for the next season, because that's what HBO likes to do. But I think that bringing it back, it's whoever makes it to the end that's the victor, right? Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I've really enjoyed doing these Westworld reviews. They're a lot of fun. I can't wait to do more theory videos, more TV show reviews as we expand Ouroboros.Bros into more stuff. But as always, if you would, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That really helps us out. It's that red button down there. Like this video if you liked it. Comment down below so we can start a conversation on what your theories are, what your thoughts are so far. And until next time, I'll see you soon.